72,000 odd hours of work you put into a career, and you think that it's just there to pay the bills. Hey everyone, this is Sudeshna from The Abundant Psyche, and you are listening to the Not So Corporate podcast. Here we talk about all of those not so corporate things we do as corporate entrepreneurs to be more successful than our corporate peers. And today I'm just going to touch upon this concept that the job is just there to pay the bills and get some salary into your bank account, but your hobby, your purpose, your life is very, very different to the job. And I'll say that's selfish just because imagine the number of hours you spend at work, 8 hours a day. That's half of your waking hours for most people. So 50% of your waking hours for about 40 years in your life, you spend at a day job. That's about, if I do the math right, 40 hours over 40 years odd. And then say, for example, best case scenario, you take 7 weeks of holiday in a year. So multiply that by 45 and you get to around 72,000 odd hours. 72,000 odd hours of work you put into a career, and you think that it's just there to pay the bills. Oh my goodness. Yes, of course. Look, you are going to need to pay the bills. You are going to need a job that covers your expenses. But inherently, when we think about our jobs from that perspective of this is just there to pay the bills and my life happens outside the 9 to 5, it gets really interesting for me from two perspectives. One, why are you playing to survive when you can play to thrive? That is the scarcity mindset talking in your head. And are you going to let that win, or are you going to step into a mindset that lets you thrive every day of your career? And secondly, and most importantly, like this goes back to my purpose of creating the Abundant Psyche, me caring so much about what roles, what jobs I do in the world, is because it's very easy to half-arse a job. It's not very difficult. You are smart, you are intelligent, you know what you are doing, you have the degrees. If you are like most of the listeners of this podcast, you have all of the right pedigree and you are very smart. You know that you can very easily half-arse a job. But the thing is, you will only want to half-arse a job when you don't like it. And when you don't like it, you are probably not giving your 100%, even when you think you are, even when you are on the brink of burnout or you are beyond burnout. You think you are giving more than what you are capable of to that job, but you are not still giving your 100% because the fact that you are burned out means you are giving your burnt out self to the job rather than your whole self to the job. I speak really passionately about this because imagine if the waiter at the restaurant you went to didn't care about the hygiene factor and sneezed into your coffee or something. Would that be okay? If the waiter did not care about their job, that would be something that they would be doing unless there were these health and safety guidelines, etc. They would be doing that. For most of the jobs that you and I do, there are no guidelines. There's an expectation that you will do the best possible job, but there is no guideline. And you can't really have guidelines you can't really have standards on jobs that require intellect and creativity. And if you are going to put in 50% or 60% or even 90% into your job, imagine every service provider that you interact with whether it be at a restaurant or the bus driver or the airplane pilot or the school teacher at your child's school or the news anchor or the journalist, would you like them to half-arse their jobs? Would you like them to give 95% to their jobs? Would you rather read 95% of the truth than 100% on your daily newspaper? Of course not, right? And then some people tell me that, well, the job just pays the bills. Don't get so obsessed about it. Well, why not? Because if you are not giving your 100% of your ability, of your incredible achievements to date to your job, then what's the point? You are you are doing a half-hearted job that impacts someone else's life. And if so many people are not happy at their job, our world is a much less happy place just because you have not done a good enough job. And when I say good enough, I mean good enough by your standards. And your standards are high. I know that the listeners of my podcast are not random slackers. They genuinely are ambitious, driven, and nice people. So whenever someone tells me that your job is just there to pay the bills, I get really, really annoyed and frustrated because, well, you don't realize it, but A, you are spending half of your life doing that job, and B, you're not doing a stellar job impact someone else in the world. Why would I not be obsessed about it? I care for this world. I care for the fact that this world will be a much happier place when everyone is happy at work. And that goes back to that purpose that I have for creating the Abundant Psyche. I want every single person in this world to be fulfilled at their work so that our children know that it's possible to have fulfilling careers and lives, and it's all possible for them. And when I have people out in the world who are doing a half-hearted job, that just deeply saddens me, because that means that that's what you are passing on to your children as well, that it's okay to not be happy at your job. Would you want your children to be happy only 50% of the times, only in their life and not in their jobs? Do you think that the 50% our work life doesn't affect the rest of our life? Of course it does. What legacy are we going to leave our children if we thought of that closed mindset of 50% of the times it's okay for us to not be happy? It's just there to pay the bills. No, I want to be happy 100% of the time in my life. Why should I settle for like 50%? No, of course not. But if you are someone who's been wondering about purpose and what you could do, and you are trying to find purpose and meaning in your career, first of all, I really commend you. Not many people get to the point where they think of this, actively think of this. Most people passively think about it and then forget about it. And if you are one of those people, I would say bring it a bit fore to the mind. That was the point of my entire lecture or sermon, if you will, that you really need to be happy at your job because A, it's important for you to be happy all your life, not half of your life. B, because it's important that that happiness translates into other people's lives. And C, because hopefully we want to leave our next generation with the possibility that it is actually possible to be fulfilled in our careers. Therefore, the possibility of being fulfilled 100% of the time in our lives. So if you are someone who's been looking for that purpose and you're unsure, I have a few tips for you. The first thing I would suggest you do is find something that you care about. And this doesn't mean like go with your arms high up and go like find your passion and all of that. In fact, I think finding your passion is actually quite hard because most people struggle to find their passion. But most of us have something that we care about so innately, so deeply in this world that we can go to any stretch to get that. Or we are so annoyed by certain things in this world and we 100% of the time speak up about it. And that can leave you a clue into your purpose. So find something that you care about. Say, for example, it could be something environmentally related. It could be something around safe drinking water. It could be something around decentralized finance and the entire blockchain technology. For example, for me, I'm really innately curious about optimization, and therefore anything that helps me optimize a certain process in business or life, I go for that and I pick that up. And it could be something similar for you. And once you have found an industry or something that you care deeply about, figure out what skills do you have that could help that particular industry thrive. It's not like you have to be an expert at fundraising for charity that works in safe water. It could be that you are a very well connected person. It could be that you are a very strategic person and you are really good at Excel. And I remember from my strategy and days, we used to help a ton of charities, and charities are in so much need of help like that, to run some numbers, help them strategize, optimize their finances, etc. And maybe you can do something like that. Or maybe you can do something around marketing and you can write some creatives or create some creatives for a charity. Or maybe you can create their websites for a much reduced price. You could work for a blockchain company. If you don't know anything related to the technology, maybe you can go on to the marketing side, maybe you can go to the sales side. So many different options out there. The third thing that you do is, once you have picked your industry, talk about the things very openly and honestly, about the things that you really care about and you think are right or you think are wrong in that industry. And this is where I think most people get muddled up. They don't speak up enough because they get into their heads too much. They have the not an expert syndrome, also known as the imposter syndrome. And what ends up happening is, when you start talking, people start listening. And this has happened to me as well. Like, I used to be really shy and quiet, and over the last couple of years, as I have started speaking out more, for the first year or so, people just quietly observe what you're doing. The second year, they start coming out of their shells. The third year, they know that you are onto something and they'll start giving attention to them properly. So it is a long game, but no one promised this is a short game and you are going to be successful tomorrow. In fact, can I just remind you again, it's at least 40 years of your career. So 3-4 years is inconsequential in the long run. But if you start today, you start building that leverage for tomorrow or 5 years down the line. So when is the best time to start? Yesterday. When is the next best time to start? Today. If you don't yet have something that you care deeply about, I would say you're kidding yourself, because I'm 100% sure that you do, even if it's by someone not obeying the rules or unwritten rules in a tube or a subway journey, right? So everyone has something that it's a pet peeve, but it's stronger than a pet peeve when you know that they are clearly wrong and you just can't stand that in the world. Or maybe you just love coffee and you think that coffee should always be ethically sourced from certain firms and it should always be sustainably grown, etc. And then the final thing that you do is, once you are in an industry that you deeply, deeply care about, in a role that you think you can be the best suited for, and you've become a thought leader, start optimizing, start learning more about the industry. And as you start learning more about the industry, you'll start seeing patterns and you'll know where to optimize, where to automate. And the moment you start doing that, you can bring that back up to the strategic level again. And all the transformation, whether it's in personal life or in business, happens in that strategic space. And I love it because that's where people think that they don't need to spend time. People think that if they just do, it'll get them somewhere. But the real work is in the introspection of, what do I need to do to affect this change in the world, in my life, in someone else's life? That is the hard bit. And our mind likes to do the do, but equally, it is absolutely critical that you take time out for that introspection and re-strategize and optimize that plan from time to time. So, yeah, if you have any questions regarding this method, please feel free to drop me an email on sudeshna@theabundancepsyche.com. And if you are looking for a career change, I mean, unless you are in your dream career, in some career nirvana type of a situation, you probably should be looking for a career change. And if you are, I have a free guide for you linked down in the bio under this, wherever you are watching this. And I will see you the next time. Bye.